1913 to 1917. U.S. companies not only provided civilian goods, but also war material. Bethlehem Steel alone supplied the Allies with over 20 million artillery shells between 1914 and 1918. While major weapons manufacturers like Remington, Winchester sold rifles and guns. Allied governments relied heavily on the U.S. banking industry for billions in loans to finance their war. Despite the United States' growing economic ties to the Allies, the American public still preferred that the nation remain neutral. The British government's brutal suppression of the 1916 Easter uprising in Ireland angered many Americans, and certainly Irish Americans, as did its continued violation of American neutral shipping rights through its blockade of Germany. As the casualty list grew during 1916, most Americans were thankful that they had not been drawn into the carnage engulfing Europe. In November 1916, President Wilson won re-election by a narrow margin, largely on the slogan, "He kept us out of war." However, circumstances changed rapidly in early 1917. Many Americans began to volunteer for the French, Great Britain, or Canada, like my Uncle Frank. Germany's increasingly desperate strategic situation led to a resumption of unrestricted submarine warfare on the 31st of January, 1917. This action broke the earlier pledge of the Germans to respect passenger shipping and convince President Wilson to break diplomatic relations with Germany on the 3rd of February, 1917. Soon after, the British government provided the Wilson administration an intercepted communication from the German Foreign Secretary Arthur Zimmermann to the German envoy in Mexico. In the telegram, Zimmermann proposed that if the United States joined the war on the Allied side, Germany and Mexico should enter into an alliance, and in return, Mexico, taking up arms against the United States, would receive from Germany supply, financial assistance, and once the victory was achieved, Mexico could claim territory in Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona. The State Department released the telegram to the Associated Press on the 28th of February, and the American public opinion turned sharply as many became convinced of German duplicity and aggressive intentions. No longer was the war seen as simply a horrific folly by European powers, but rather as a clear indication of the danger of unchecked militarism. With the abdication of the Russian Tsar in February 1917 and the rise of a provisional representative government, Americans came to see the war as a struggle that pitted democracies against aggressive authoritarian imperialists. Faced with this clear contrast, President Wilson addressed on this very floor on April 2nd, 1917, a joint session of Congress, declaring his desire that, quote, "We shall fight for the things which we have always carried nearest our hearts, for democracy, for the right of those who submit to authority to have a voice in their government, for the rights and liberties of small nations, for universal dominion of right by such a concert of free peoples as shall bring peace and safety to all nations and make the world itself at last free," end quote. And so, on the 6th of April, 100 years ago today, where I am standing, with concrete evidence of German hostility to the United States, to international peace, and to liberal democracy, the Congress of the United States declared war on Germany. The first act committed on Germany was executed that very day, when the United States Army's 1st Battalion, 22nd Infantry marched from Fort Jay, New York, to Hoboken, New Jersey, boarded and seized the German ships at pier in the harbor, and in turn, the German crews. I had the privilege to command the 1st Battalion, 22nd Infantry in Iraq in 2003 and 4. Among the ships seized that day in April 6, 1917 was the SS Vaterland, a luxury liner later renamed the USS Leviathan. This luxury transport would send 10% of all doughboys to France and bring a great many of them home as well. The last American World War I veteran was Frank Buckles, who enlisted from Oakwood, Oklahoma in August of 1917. He died only 6 years ago in February 2011, age 110. I had the privilege to know a great many World War I veterans. The last time I saw my great-grandfather was when I came home on leave as a young Army captain. As we had a very pleasant visit and it came to a close and I had to go, he told me, "Don't go yet. I want to give you something." He returned from his bedroom with some items in a cigar box that I remember looking at as a kid. And he said, "I want you to have these." And I said, "I can't take these, Grandpa. Those are your brothers." He said, "You will take them because I know you will keep Frank's memory alive." And he was right. They've been displayed by me ever since, wherever I've been. As we reflect today on the declaration of war 100 years ago on this very spot in 1917 that began the United States entry into World War I, let us embark on a national centennial remembrance for all Americans of that day who sacrificed so much for our republic. They are all gone now. But as long as we who knew them have breath and remember them, they will live. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield back my time.